7 months have passed, but I'm still sitting here during quarantine, and time seems to have lost its effect on me. Yet the suffering continues. Evil continues to choke the past, present, and future. And yet hope is not lost.
Gotta get back to the show of Samurai Jack.
Look at all that ruggedness, baby. Let's shave. Oh, and that looks much better, baby. Back off, Beardsley. Where is your sword?
Alright, got my sword. Where's Jack's? It has been 50 years for the wandering samurai, and 13 years for the professional animator. Although here's an interesting fact that you've probably heard before, but might as well repeat it again for the sake of this review. I did not grow up watching this show. I was probably in my early college years that I saw the trailer for Season 5 of Samurai Jack on the internet. And that caught my attention. I thought, I vaguely know about this show. And I thought, right, if I'm to know what Season 5 is all about, I probably need to watch the other previous seasons. And I did, and I became a fan. Because even though it was aimed for a young demographic, it still told quite an engaging story and pushed the limits of the artistic merits of animation, particularly with Gennady Tartakovsky's love for visual storytelling. The slow-paced atmosphere actually added to the immersion rather than induced boredom. In fact, despite being extremely slow-paced, I don't think I was ever bored with Samurai Jack. It had some genuinely dramatic moments, genuinely funny moments. Having watched it, or at least most of it to get the idea what it's all about, I could perfectly understand why so many people loved it. Throughout January all the way to March, I got introduced to several episodes of Samurai Jack. By the time March came around, when it was my birthday, week by week, the episodes of Samurai Jack Season 5 came out. And my goodness, it's got to be the best season in the show. Is it perfect, however? Not quite. But hey, we mortals can never quite reach perfection. Yet, we have the standard of perfection. Makes you think, doesn't it? And in order to properly address the subject matter of Season 5, I might as well describe the history of the show. Because after Season 4 of Samurai Jack, Gennady and his team moved on to other projects like the Star Wars Clone Wars miniseries, which must have been lots of fun for him as a Star Wars fan, the often overlooked action series Symbiotic Titan, and And Gennady Tartakovsky was the director of the Hotel Transylvania series. And he'd been meaning to finish off the story of Samurai Jack for all that time, but never found the means of doing it. He was even planning on making a movie. Was it with J.J. Abrams? It never saw the light of day. Indeed, our poor wandering samurai was doomed to wander the wilderness, never able to find his way home back in time to defeat Aku once and for all. It wasn't until Gennady Tartakovsky finally came up with an idea to finish off the story. Revive it on Adult Swim. Now, most of you probably know this already, but I had to describe it because it reflects the geniusly meta narrative that this story has to offer. Because now that it was on a platform aimed for older audiences, and seeing how it was aimed for the generation who grew up with Samurai Jack, it just made perfect sense to make it more mature. The show promised even more gritty violence, and dealing with tough subject matter like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. With this premise in mind, surely the show would have just been gritty and dark for the sake of it, like Prince of Persia Warrior Within. But fortunately, this is not the case. This is one of those occasions where it's dark and gritty, not for the sake of it, but because it makes sense for the story. And it still maintained the humor that the show had in its previous 4 seasons. So what is Season 5 all about? Jack is a stoic samurai warrior who had a mission to destroy a tyrannical demon named Aku. yet was sent to the future by this demon, and he made it his life's goal to kindly support all those who were being oppressed by the demon Aku, on a quest to find some way to travel back to his original time and to slay Aku once and for all. Aku would send minion after minion. Jack would go on all sorts of quirky adventures, some adventures dealing with his internal struggles. And every time a time portal showed itself, it would either get destroyed, or Jack would purposefully delay himself to put others before his own needs. The creators never really mentioned it in the behind the scenes of the previous seasons, but the show has this melancholy nature to it. We never saw Jack accomplish his goal, and from where he left off, he's doomed to wander the wilderness forever, all while still helping people get away from the rule of the devilish Aku. When Season 5 kicks off, we still see innocent creatures being oppressed by Aku's authorities. Until a warrior comes along, clad in armor, riding a motorbike. With action and visuals more akin to a comic strip. The warrior with a demon mask takes down the robots. He takes them down until a robot slashes his mask open. Despite his long grisly beard, the scowl was undeniable.
Yes, my dear, it was Jack.
But wait, where did his beard go? I thought he had a beard, but it vanished.
Oh no, wait, actually, you see that line there? Actually, his beard is still there. I think the beard must have briefly got a good suntan.
Jack rides off into the sunset as we get a new introduction, made specifically for Season 5. Now, all of you know the introduction to the original 4 seasons, with the villain's narration, that catchy upbeat song, "Gonna get back to the past, Samurai Jack." This time we have something much more solemn, with the main protagonist narrating this time. This new intro does a great job not just with explaining what's happening, it also perfectly sets up the atmosphere with some solemn music, some grim imagery, a distinctly bleak color tone. Love this show's use of color, but still giving off that sense of determined hope at the end, when Jack repeats the main rhyme of the original theme song. Brilliant new intro. Now, with the previous seasons, you could pretty much watch any episode and get the idea of what's going on, like Star Trek. But in this season, it's like one big epic finale, split in 10 parts. And for those who are diving straight into Season 5, you don't necessarily have to have seen all the other episodes to watch Season 5, but it helps, especially with understanding some references. So anyway, as the intro has already pronounced, Jack has been going on this seemingly never-ending quest for more than half a century. It's been that long? Yes. And apparently, all the time portals have been destroyed. Jack is stuck wandering the wilderness, and what's worse, his inner demons, briefly touched upon in various episodes of the previous seasons in a way, have come back to haunt him. Whether relaxing or in combat, he keeps having flashes of painful guilt for all the people that he couldn't save. His parents, all the citizens of Japan, he's constantly on the verge of insanity. Seeing his people as fallen wiltering leaves, washing away in a river, crying out for him to help. Seeing his dad crucified in a fireplace. Seeing shapes of helpless children in rocks, as well as seeing an ominous greenly lit omen spirit. Through the genius visual storytelling, we're never told explicitly what this spirit is, but by that ominous green light, and his intimidating stature, which is not too far off from a Grim Reaper, we can tell that this figure in some way or another represents death itself. He'll even argue with his past self from his prime days, thematically reflecting on who he used to be and what he is now. And we get even more genius visual storytelling, and with few if not little words. We can tell that Jack's just not who he used to be. Instead of that slick, sharp, clean design from the previous seasons, we have this scrubby man. Instead of robes, he wears armor. presumably made from junk and stuff like that. Once he distanced himself from this evil land that Aku ruled, now he's embraced the alienated nature of the place that he's stuck in. Which comes with its blessings and cursings, because on the one hand, Jack has had more time to learn how to shoot guns, ride bikes, and use other gadgets, so that he's not completely illiterate to technology like Captain America, although in some ways he still is. But you kind of sense that he's just embraced the wild side of everything. And to make matters worse, he's lost his sword. I don't want to spoil what happened, but I will say this. Only the truly righteous in character could wield the sword. And Jack, he gave in to his anger, which is probably why inner demons are still haunting him. Come to think of it, it's amazing how much Jack's character is reflected through his alter ego that he's arguing with. Himself, mind you. You know how Riley's emotions were... You know how in Inside Out, how Riley's emotions were represented by these little people trying to keep Riley's mind in control? In this case, it's amazing how much Jack's alter ego reflects on what Jack's going through. Whether it be desperation, anger, doubt. Like, there's this one scene, in fact, two scenes actually, where Jack's alter ego takes on a more surreally distorted and sharp form to signify extreme emotions. Now, in concept, this is extremely silly, reflecting Aku's fairy tale episode, which he pictures Jack as a cartoonish monster. But in execution, the sharp, distorted face, combined with what he's saying, makes for some very unsettling scenes.
Or is that what you want?
Don't want the girls to see me in this state. I'm not properly dressed. So, as Jack is struggling with his inner turmoil, Jack is also fighting off enemies old and new. A lot of new enemies. All these enemies are tough, but nothing that Jack can't handle. And the show is not afraid to show off some comedy. It still maintains its identity, and remembers that it did have its goofy moments.
There's a fabulous robot named Scary Mirror who loves to dance, baby.
And for comedic effect, even Aku himself is getting depressed from all this. And for comedic effect, even Jack's rival Aku is getting sick and tired of all this. There's various scenes with Aku having a clinical depression, and it's so funny. And just like Jack, he also talks to himself. Gosh, there's a reoccurring theme of people talking to themselves. Am I right? Yeah, you're precisely right. I mean, people talking to themselves, that's a common feature. Yeah, people would call you mentally troubled if you keep talking to yourself. Ah, don't worry. Everything's mind over matter. If the mind matters anyway, am I right? This guy's funny. Oh, and whilst I'm on the topic of Aku, might as well talk about the new voice actor and the new camera position. You see, the original voice actor of Aku in the original show was a well-known Japanese actor by the name of Mako. His full name was Mako Imawatsu, but he took on Mako as first name as sort of a stage name. His most popular roles were in his senior stages of his life, though you might also recognize him in some other films like Pearl Harbor, Green Hornet, and he's been known to voice several people of a sort of wise Asian kind of category. He voiced Splinter in the 2007 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. He famously voiced Uncle Iroh in Avatar: The Last Airbender. And of course, his most signature villain role was Aku. Gennady actually cast Mako as Aku based on another role that Mako played as the sort of demon sorcerer from Conan the Barbarian featuring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Gennady Tartakovsky really liked the voice that he used and thought it would really suit Aku's character. And indeed, Mako had that signature voice. He always stole the show, whether he was being funny or intimidating or a bit of both.
He always carried that high energy and extended the words to add in a hissing sound, samurai.
And unfortunately, he passed on. But fortunately, for several of Mako's iconic roles, an American voice actor named Greg Baldwin took his place. And Greg does an amazing impression of Mako. He did some lines for Splinter, and he voiced Iroh in the 3rd season of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
He really knows how to get the accent as well as the tone right, because he would often speak quite softly.
Now, his take on Aku is fairly interesting, because you can tell it's not really the same as Mako whenever Greg Baldwin's attempting to do a shouting Mako impression. But it is close enough. Some people say maybe they should have got someone else to do the part. But I actually like Greg Baldwin's take on Aku. I don't call it inferior, it's just different. It's like comparing Mark Hamill to Heath Ledger with the Joker. And it's true, many people, not even Greg Baldwin or me, could ever replace Mako. But I think Greg Baldwin's tone actually fits the clinical depression that Aku is going through. There's sort of a lower sourness to it, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's capturing the character that really matters, and Greg Baldwin does that perfectly. He's still really funny, and he can still be pretty intimidating when he wants to be. And to my knowledge, Greg Baldwin has gotten better with his voice, and he seems to have a lot of fun impersonating Aku. Greg Baldwin even made his own YouTube channel dedicated to having parody songs voicing Aku. I'll leave you a link to that later. So anyway, Aku wishes that there was somebody, anybody, who could just take out the samurai once and for all. Indeed, Aku's answers might very well be answered. Because deep in the darkest bowels of Aku's tyrannical lands, there lives a cult of ladies who worship the demon Aku. Yeah, cults. Yikes. We then see the head priestess, live on television, giving birth to 7 children. Giving birth to 7 human demon hybrid women. All at once. Screaming pangs and all. Yeah, this isn't your toddler show anymore. They are then forcefully indoctrinated to think that Aku is the hero, and they are brutally trained their whole lives for the sole purpose of killing Samurai Jack. Toto, we're a long way from Kansas now, boy. My name's Gruffy. Just go along with a joke, will you? You didn't have to do that. Throughout the season, we see the rest of their illness treatment. Seriously, at one point, she just tosses the children into burning ash. Who does that? And despite being born and raised to practically be antichrists, there is one girl in this group, by the name of Ashi, who has some hints of humanity about her. We see her attempt to escape and admire a beautiful sunset from the cracks of her caves, only to be beaten into submission for being distracted. On a thematic level, Ashi is fascinated by ladybugs. But then her mother comes along again to kind of hypocritically tell her that all these things that we claim were made by Aku are not part of Aku's order. Squash! That's important for later. So the show gets really intense when the daughters are unleashed. Jack gets disarmed and chased down by these daughters, leading to one of the most intense chase scenes I've ever seen. And it's only episode 2 of season 5. The show once again has brilliant visual storytelling with foreshadowing signified by a white wolf. A white lone wolf. Sound familiar? And later on, when Jack escapes, being psychologically damaged by these daughters, he takes time to heal with that lone wolf. Lone wolves gotta stick together. Then they wouldn't really be lonely wolves, would they? I guess that's what the wolf realized when he realized that he had to leave Jack. I probably won't give away what Jack does next, but the way he handles his daughter, that would be troubling. The way Jack handles the daughters of Aku, he's struggling with the concepts of murder. Since he's been hacking and slashing robots throughout his whole life. And the latest assassin to get him was also a robot. But now Jack's being confronted with real people. Yeah, what would happen if you treated people as machines and sent them to kill Jack? Kind of like what the Nazis did. Or specifically what Hitler did to the Nazis. But to quote Charlie Chaplin, "You're not machines, you are men."
And women in this case.
Jack remembers profound words of wisdom from his dad. The decisions you make and the actions that follow are a reflection on who you are. You cannot hide from who you are. So, he offers them a new choice. Leave now and live, or stay and face your destiny. See, everyone has a choice. Even those who are brainwashed have the choice to live. And indeed, Jack notices the humanity in Ashi. Jack even tries to reason with them, saying that Aku is the evil one. And through a series of events, several characters go through profound redemption arcs. Because of this, I actually kind of like how the first half of Season 5 is all gloom and despair, but then the second half of Season 5, we see this uprise of hope. And even though the second half still deals with some pretty hard stuff, you can definitely sense the lighthearted tone akin to the previous 4 seasons. In fact, it's arguably more lighthearted. And yes, the shocking moments of the show are genuinely shocking. At the climax of Jack running from the Dodgers, there was a moment that literally made me go, There was another moment when me and many other people realized, wait a minute. If she was washing herself clean from that stuff, that means, oh my goodness gracious gravy! But even with the hope, Jack is still fighting his inner demons, and that omen spirit from earlier is still pursuing Jack, as if Jack was already prepared to die. Because you see, Japan is part of the eastern side of the world where forgiveness is based on a highly honor-based system. Honor is extremely important in Eastern countries. My cousin told me about this book which gave me insight on that. And there's something in here that specifically says that there's a shame and honor culture in terms of redemption, which describes collective cultures common in the East where people are shamed for fulfilling group expectations and seek to restore their honor before the community. Honor, by definition, means being of great respect, great virtue. Indeed, this show teaches that hope itself is a form of honor. And that hope is something that Jack has been missing. Jack feels guilty and ashamed, and it was his destiny to bring hope to the world. And I'd like to read to you this article, written by Alison Alexander of the Christ and Pop Culture website, in which she writes about Samurai Jack in an article called Samurai Jack Finding Freedom Through Forgiveness. Here's what she wrote.
Jack's depression reflects the hopelessness that past sin and failure can inflict in the present. It's easy to dwell on the mistakes we've made and to continue to punish ourselves for them. It's when we let the people we love down that we, and often others, feel we deserve to suffer indefinitely for our crimes. While our actions do and should have consequences, the point of forgiveness is that it is not deserved, but we're given it anyway. In Jack's case, he feels like he has failed people when the opposite is true. We get an entire episode, which in concept is pretty much fan service, the episode. But this also works on a thematic level, as it shows that Jack's adventures were not in vain. His compassion and kindness has helped many people find hope, and even encourages some to rebel against the survival of the fittest mentality of Aku's reign. Back to the article. Throwbacks to the original series abound as she encounters the Woolies, whom Jack freed from slavery in Season 1, the 3 blind archers, whose curse he broke and who are now part of a resistance against Aku, the children, now adults, he liberated from a mind-controlling DJ in Season 3, and a wannabe samurai from Season 4 that he saved from self-destruction. He was the samurai! I just noticed something. All those scenes reflected all 4 seasons of the show. All these characters recognized the hope that Jack brought them and were incredibly thankful for. Thus, we as the audience get a closer understanding of what truth and self-sacrifice looks like. And now it's Jack's turn to receive the same hope. In the same article, Alison brings up 1 Peter, verses 5 to 9. You must make every effort to support your faith with goodness, and goodness with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with endurance, and endurance with godliness, and godliness with mutual affection, and mutual affection with love. For if these things are yours, and are increasing among you, they keep you from being ineffective and unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. For anyone who lacks these things is short-sighted and blind and is forgetful to the cleansing of past sins. And Jack is constantly demonstrating those virtues. He just needed to remember that last part. And I suppose it's time for me to discuss spoilers with this next part, as Ashley's character arc is even more redemption-filled than Jack's. Despite being described as the strongest by the High Priestess, she's also described as the most unfocused, always distracted, questioning everything, as if questioning her beliefs was a bad thing. But on the contrary, Ashley's willingness to explore truth is what makes her strong. Despite her stubbornness, Jack patiently proves to her of the villain's terror-filled reign, and Ashi later confronts her beliefs. And her shifting perspective is made visually apparent as she washes Aku's taint from her skin with delight.
We will never forget you till the day we die. Samurai, samurai. Aku enslaved us with his beats from hell. And then he came and fought the evil away.
Wait, he? Who's he? When they say Aku enslaved the children with his beats from hell, but then he came and fought the evil away, do they mean Jack or Aku? Then Aku came and fought the evil away? They need to be a bit more specific when they say he. I mean, of course it's Jack, but why would demons go against other demons? Anyway, this show really is a spectacle. But is it perfect? Unfortunately not. But don't worry, in the long term, these flaws are actually fairly insignificant. And for me, they don't ultimately ruin this brilliant experience of finishing off the story of Samurai Jack. That is, except for the finale. Now, due to recent news, we do have good news regarding the finale. But let's get the bad news over with. For those of you who have seen the show, you know fully well that the finale was unfortunately rushed. And I can't say that I blame Gennady Tartakovsky specifically, because he did manage to say so much within 10 episodes. But at the same time, all the other seasons were at least 13 episodes long, so maybe if Gennady had a higher budget, maybe he could have put in a bit of effort to have a two-parter with the finale, like building up to the fight and then having the fight and then the finale. Or maybe 12, or maybe, dare I say it, 13 episodes? I mean, in concept, this finale works perfectly, but in execution, it's, yeah, rushed. The battle itself is still really cool with so many callbacks, as well as buying into that heartwarming revelation that Jack's kindness wasn't for nothing. Never underestimate the mustard seed, as they say, because kindness is not a fairy tale, it's real. Now, to my knowledge, the majority of the people don't really mind the actual fight itself. It's what happens afterwards that bothers people. See, I don't want to give too much away, but through a series of events, this one character should have disappeared instantly. But then Gennady purposely went, no, wait, hold back the middle finger, hold back the middle finger. Don't let them feel the pain yet. Drag it out, drag it out, drag it out. But unfortunately, we all saw it coming. He just waited for the right moment where Gennady goes, all right, no, put up the middle finger. And I get what he was trying to do, but at this point, I've seen several fans on YouTube who have made more effective alternative endings. Like Jack crying to his parents and seeing memories of his friends that could have frankly disappeared. With all that said, though, Gennady Tartakovsky was always the type of person who was more effective at the midway section rather than the start and the finish. He was always about the action that happens in between, and looking back on the whole show, yeah, it was an incredible journey going from point A to point B. You know that bit between point A and point B? That's what he focused on, and my, what a journey it's been. He's been through obstacles, there's been some funny moments, there's been through serious moments. And the series has gone for so long, how could you finish it off? I mean, it's a lot of pressure on Tartakovsky's part. And yeah, I do agree that Jack deserves happiness. But if you ask me, there's something much more beautifully profound than happiness that everyone needs in their lives. Peace. And by the finale, that's exactly what Jack finds as he sees a ladybug and sees a gorgeous view. A great way to finish off the show, actually. So yeah, the bad news, the finale was kind of rushed. But the good news is, as you know, come next week, a new video game based on Samurai Jack made by the same team is coming out! And it's canon. And it's an extension of the finale! Hooray! So that means the finale isn't going to be as rushed anymore. It's fully extended, and we get to play it. But before I do, I might as well make another video describing my thoughts on the game before it comes out. But for the time being, I give Samurai Jack Season 5 an 11.9 out of 12. Yeah, 11.9. Thank you all so much for watching. Special thanks to the people at Christ and Pop Culture website for making that article to give me further insight to Samurai Jack. And yes, by the time the game comes out, I guarantee you on this channel, I will play it.
Gotta get back to the past, Samurai Jack.